Hey guys, it's Kyle Summerford, and I am back with a new guest.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Dental Office Managers Community Podcast, where we talk about the issues that matter most and help us to become better leaders in our dental practice. I'm your host, Kyle Summerford. Let's dive right in.
And today we are going to be discussing privacy in the dental practice, and we have Amy Woods here.
Hi.
Hey.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate you taking the time out today.
Absolutely.
So guys, we are going to be kind of like picking Amy's brain here. We want to learn a little bit about who she is, where she's from. So
I'm a weirdo that got into HIPAA and cybersecurity and data breaches, and it's all kinds of fun.
Cool. So how long have you been in privacy in HIPAA?
In HIPAA since 2013, wow. And in dental and IT and security since 2006. I want to say. So it's been a while. It's been a minute.
A minute, yeah. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad we have you on here. So it seems like you're the expert. So, what I wanted to ask is, what are some of the challenges right now that you're seeing in the dental space with privacy?
So it's an interesting transition. So we talk about the generation gap all the time, and there's a whole new generation of people coming into the workforce that are what we call post 9/11 babies. So they grew up in a world where privacy was never a given. It was something that they had to seek out. So they didn't grow up with it. They grew up with millennial parents. And I'm actually an elder millennial. I barely meet that cutoff. So I grew up in a world where all my bad activities were not on MySpace yet.
Okay.
And for those of you young enough that don't know what MySpace is, just Google it.
Does it still exist?
It does. Yeah. I actually was able to log into it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You know how many hours I spent on that, setting it up, and
the music in the background.
Yeah, putting the little like spinny boxes with like a photo in each box. Like
we're a little old.
Yeah. MySpace. Yeah. It was an interesting time. You just brought me back like flashbacks of just sitting on my computer for hours on MySpace.
We did and we had that one friend when we first logged in.
Yeah. I think what was his name? I forget his name.
Tom.
That was it. Tom.
Yeah.
He was everybody's friend.
Yeah.
I don't know whatever happened to Tom.
Tom was probably made up by AI because AI was around even back then.
Yeah. So I hear.
Yeah.
So cool. So all right, privacy. Okay. So post 9/11 babies.
Yeah. So what happened after 9/11 is the government went in to every internet service provider, so Google, Comcast, big internet providers, and they basically said, we get to put in a filter and read everybody's email. And so we also had this law called HIPAA that came out in 1996 that said information needs to remain private. And so about that same time, we started looking at different technologies that had to be implemented. And now, since 2009, I think that's been required as part of the HITECH Act, where we have to encrypt emails. Oh, wow. So anything that contains patient information needs to be encrypted. And everybody still complains about it because it's yet another password we have to have. Yeah. But what people have kind of forgotten about is that we still need to train people on not just technology, but privacy. So we're seeing a lot more incidents of employees snooping.
Sure.
So they're looking into patient records to see, what is my neighbor doing? Did they pay their bill? What's my ex doing?
Wow.
And who's the new girlfriend? Who's on their new insurance? What about divorced parents? And so it's team members in the office that are doing things they shouldn't be doing, or they're publicly sharing information. And it could be something as innocent as team members having lunch and talking about a patient.
Wow.
And someone is sitting in a table nearby and they overhear that.
You happen to hear it.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, someone's getting in trouble.
Yeah.
So now, does the practice get in trouble?
Yes.
does the employee get in trouble?
Depends on what's written down. So most people don't
Tricky.
understand that HIPAA since 1996 has required policies and procedures.
Okay.
Most practices don't have them. And if they do, they're generic and template and don't cover situations like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably outdated, even if they have it.
Well, if you talk to some of our HR friends, you'll find that most practices don't even have a customized employee manual. So the fact that I tell them, hey, you need to have policies and procedures on things like we'll have a firewall, or we'll have passwords we don't share,
Right.
or we'll keep information safe and private. That is just kind of shocking to most practices and team members.
Yeah. As a dental manager myself, right? So, I could see how, going back to what you said earlier about, another password, just another password to have, it does become kind of to the point where it's like, well, how many passwords do I need? But
As many as it takes for the hackers to stop getting in.
see, yeah. So I mean, I understand that. I was speaking to Debbie Carr, which guys, you'll see Debbie Carr's video.
Good friend of mine.
Yeah. So and you guys work together, right?
We do. We collaborated on quite a few things. One of the biggest ones is vetting vendors. Vetting vendors. We have the same
sound of that.
stance when it comes to what the minimum standard for security is with vendors that are integrating with practice management systems in dental.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And we don't accept anything less than answer the questions.
Wow. Okay.
We're a little harsh on that, but we're actually nice people.
Well, we'll have to learn more about that.
Yeah.
On another one. But yeah. I mean, in terms of like what practices can do, right? I mean, I know there's no blanket statement for this, right? But when it comes to like privacy, what are some maybe easy things that an office can implement today? Is that even possible? Like,
Yeah. So I grew up in the 80s, so I'm going to use a bowling analogy.
Okay.
If you need bumper rails in the bowling lanes, that's really what we're looking to do.
Okay.
So I look at things like, do you have a password strategy and policy on that? Do you have a social media policy? So I know social media is a touchy one, and you love social media. I love social media.
Yeah.
I post things too.
Yeah.
But I have bumpers in the gutters for that.
Yeah.
So I have some boundaries around it. We don't take pictures in a lab with a printout of the day sheet with all the patient's names, phone numbers, and treatment and dollar information right behind you in the lab every day.
yeah.
I've had that done. We don't take pictures of patients in the chair without their permission and post it on your personal social media. But you can post all kinds of stuff about patients as long as you have their permission and it's used for educational or promotional purposes. You just have to have it very clearly written out as to what those boundaries are.
Gotcha. And so that's what you can assist practices with?
Yeah,
with
I do
creating
privacy and
those
security, yeah.
policies? Cool. Okay. So what are some challenges that you're seeing right now, with implementing privacy or just awareness of privacy?
I think a lot of people have forgotten it, and the focus right now is on security, which is a huge part of what I do right now. But it's overwhelming. There's so much that practices are dealing with now post-COVID, and the challenges that they're facing. They're just trying to stay afloat. And then when you have something massive like Change Healthcare getting hacked and practices literally aren't getting paid, it kind of puts a pause on everything else.
Yeah.
So I understand the frustration, and my approach is a little different. I'm very practical with it. And I say, look, I know you're not going to be able to do everything right now, but let's start with 3 simple, easy to achieve things.
Yep.
And start there. And then when we're done with that, let's circle back and do the next 3 things.
Baby steps.
Yeah.
Baby steps.
Well, it's like that debt snowball or
Okay.
working out or
Yeah.
things like that,
Yeah, yeah.
dieting,
Yeah, you
the
gotta-
things we're supposed to do.
Little by little, right?
Yeah.
You just got to take it piece by piece. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you get the small wins, and then overall it snowballs into an effect where you actually feel confident in your compliance culture.
Yeah. Yeah, that's needed. I mean, times have changed.
And this is a scary topic for people because we've got privacy that's been around for almost 30 years now, and it hasn't changed a whole lot, but the ways we're accessing information with technology and digital data and security with that, and the hackers that are out there, that has changed drastically, and it affects how we're dealing with privacy issues. So I'm dealing with both a lot now.
It seems like the more technological advancements that we embrace in practices, there's a lot of like strategies that also should be implemented to kind of like make sure we're doing things the right way.
Well, I talk about things in kind of 3 buckets. I talk about your people, your process, and your technology. And it actually needs to be in that order because your people are your best asset or your worst liability. And well, seriously, I mean, all it takes is you have the best process, you have all the paperwork, you've done everything, you have done the training, and you have awesome IT, you're spending a fortune on security, but all it takes is one person circumventing all of that and clicking on something, and it takes down a whole practice.
You mentioned clicking on something. So, Debbie and I were speaking about the FBI alerted practices about, making sure not to click on certain links that come through by email.
Well, there's a new one, actually, that's going through social media, too.
Really?
Yeah, so it's someone pretending to be a new patient, and they're saying, I'll only be a new patient if you open my medical records, click here.
Wow.
And it's very, very convincing, and there's a lot of speculation that it's coming from Russia and that it's AI generated.
What? No way. Yeah. Oh, my God. Guys,
so be careful. Don't click on that one.
Yeah, don't click on anything. No. Yeah, it's so scary. You got to be real careful on what we click on, what we're looking at.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned earlier with Debbie. I was talking about how, we always got the email about the Norton antivirus that we signed up for, right? And then she mentioned like ChatGPT. Now it's like harder to really differentiate between like, is this really a hacker because they're using proper English.
It used to be spelling, grammar, very easily to identify links, things like that. And I was an IT provider for 20 years in dental. So I dealt with this day in and day out. And I still see things. So sometimes just for fun, I'll turn off my spam filter and just see what comes in. And I screenshot a lot of those and use them as examples.
Hey, why not?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what you have to know what's coming in.
Right.
So, I mean, just be extra cautious and have a good partner with an IT provider, someone who actually specializes in healthcare, more specifically dental if possible. And I know dentists don't want to pay those prices, but I promise you it is the best investment you're ever going to make, because I swear if you ever have to call me, it's going to be a whole lot cheaper if you have a good IT partner.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, so the implications, I mean, besides financial implications, right? Maybe
reputation, patient lawsuits.
It seems like it opens up a whole
stress.
Yeah, things you don't want, you don't need, right?
People tend to call me on the worst day of their life, and I feel like my background, my minor in psychology is coming in handy because I get to be a little bit of a part-time therapist.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. So how have those interactions gone?
Well, I've done almost 500 data breaches now in the last 10 years.
Okay.
And it started with my x-rays being compromised, and my name, birth date, social security number, and my insurance medical record number. And those have been sold about 60,000 times on the dark web. What? And I'm only worth about $385 for any hacker that wants to buy it. I've had financial identity theft. I've had medical identity theft. I've had people impersonate me to get surgeries.
Personally?
You're
talking about personally?
Personally, yes, me.
Wow.
Yeah. My medical record is still so messed up that I have to get a special exemption for my blood pressure medication, because the lady that went in to impersonate me had perfect blood pressure, and I don't. I'm half German and half Irish. We do not have good blood pressure. It is genetic. So I have to make sure that part of my medical record, while it's still being cleaned up and I'm having to fight that and prove I am who I am, that I can still get my prescriptions and not have it kicked back all the time.
Yeah, it seems like it's made your life a lot more difficult.
Yeah, and I get
somewhat.
weird things like people have tried to open new cell phone accounts in my name so that they can intercept my two-factor authentication codes.
Wow.
I had someone call my business credit card account and impersonate me to try to get authorized users and have those cards shipped to them. Recently.
It sounds like you're a very hot
I get the weird
commodity.
stuff.
yeah, they're coming. Someone's coming for you.
Well, I like to say if there's a 2% failure rate on something, it's going to happen to me. And actually, those x-rays that were sold on the dark web was because I had jaw realignment. I had orthodontic surgery, upper and lower. And then I rejected my titanium, which is a 2% failure rate. My screws started unthreading themselves 4 days after the surgery.
Oh my gosh.
And it's super rare. And so I like to say if something weird is going to happen, it's going to happen to me.
To you. So is that kind of, did that happen to you first, and that kind of like pushed you into this field
It did.
of privacy?
It did. So it's kind of
cybersecurity?
interesting. This all kind of happened about 2013.
Okay.
And I had the surgery in 2010. And in 2013, I got a letter saying that my x-rays were compromised because the person working at the reception desk at the imaging center where these were taken, she decided to try to help the IT at the hospital that was acquiring them. And she made an unauthorized copy of most people's x-rays onto a thumb drive and then lost it. And they ended up for sale on the dark web.
Whoa.
So it's just the gift that keeps on giving for me. I made lemonade out of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look. I mean, you're the expert here, so.
But a lot of patients don't have that, and that's really why I'm doing what I'm doing is to raise awareness that it's about the practices. Absolutely, they need to protect themselves and the practice and the revenue, but more importantly, they need to protect the patients.
Right. Yeah. I mean, to go through all of that is like. I mean,
delightful.
I don't know how to word it, but,
words we're not going to say on a podcast.
Yeah. Well, it's unfortunate, but I mean, like you said, you've made lemonade out of lemons, right? So
I could be upset, and I am. There are days when I just don't want to deal with it anymore, and there's times that I look at it and say, you know what, this is the best blessing I could have ever had.
Yeah.
It changed my life forever. And I actually really enjoy what I do because I know it makes an impact.
Yeah. Well, you're living proof of the passion, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're going through it, and
always, it's out there forever.
It speaks for itself. So Amy, I want you to share with our audience just a little bit on your company. So,
sure.
How members can reach you if they're interested in, accessing your services.
Sure. My business is Copper Penny Consulting, and it is actually named after my youngest daughter. So all my girls are redheads, and she is the dark copper color one. Also my favorite. I know I'm not supposed to have one, but she's still young and cute and likes me. She's not a mean teenager.
Oh my gosh.
And she wasn't supposed to happen. She was an IUD baby that should have never happened. And she was like that 2% failure rate. And I kind of look at that as emblematic of everything that I do. But the website is copperpennyconsulting.com. I do DIY and white glove programs proactively. And if you find yourself in an unfortunate situation, I do reactive data breach work as well.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for coming on,
Absolutely.
Amy. And
thanks for having me.
Sharing your expertise and your woes.
Scaring you a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want people to be scared because the reality is it's a scary world, especially with all the digital information, but it can all be managed.
Right.
You just have to know the right information and how to approach it, without being dramatic about it.
Yeah. Embrace it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the Navy SEALs have this phrase, embrace the suck.
Embrace the suck.
I'm all about that. Embrace the suck.
I hear you. All right, Amy. So again, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. Taking the time out to speak with our audience and me here. So guys, Amy Woods, Copper Penny Consulting. Reach out to Amy if you guys are looking for services. And we'll see you guys in the community. Take care. Bye.